recorded, so we're going to go ahead and start this session. I don't know if you guys know me. I'm sure most of you have seen me around. I'm the shutterbug. I usually take a lot of pictures. My name is Greg Castle. I work for the town of Kernersville, which is about 10 or 12 miles to the east of here. We appreciate y'all being here at the conference. I also serve on the board as bylaws chair and lots of other stuff. But we're fortunate this morning to have a very sharp guy with us. Matias Silva has been with me for about 8 months. He is a very sharp programmer, web developer. Matias has skills that I don't have. We were always told to hire people that are smarter than you, and definitely I did that this time. So Matias is going to talk to you a little bit about WordPress, give you a little bit of background on what we're doing at the town. We've had a website for about 5 years that's been in place, worked well, but it's kind of getting long in the tooth. So I went to the manager and to the board and said, you know, we can go out and hire somebody to redo our website, or we can go hire somebody and have a lot more flexibility. So they allowed us to do that. That's how we wound up with Matias, and he's a good asset for us. He has a lot of skills outside of the WordPress stuff, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So be sure and ask lots of questions of him. He'll get through this presentation, and I think you'll enjoy it. So without further ado, Matias Silva.
Thanks for the excellent introduction. So I'm going to take this moment to tell you that you are all absolutely terrifying. So a little bit about myself. I'm Matias. I work with Greg in Kernersville. We're 12 miles east of here, like you said. Our population is about 25,000, but it gets up to like 50,000 during rush hour because we're right between Winston, Greensboro, and High Point. So we're the main traffic thoroughfare, especially 5 o'clock on a Friday. You'll never get through there without a scratch. So this presentation is going to be about WordPress. Some of the things you can do with it, some of the things you can't do with it, what it's good for and what it's not. And if you want to follow along, we have slides available. On right now we're going to use this piece of software called slides.com. And the benefit of it is, if you have a projector that's sort of fuzzy like this one is, you can all, on your devices, go to that website, so slides.com/MatiasSilva/WP, and that'll give you the slides to download. You can look at them when you're back at your offices, or you can follow along now. So how many of you have used WordPress before? Okay. So I see a bunch of hands, but really everyone's hand should go up because WordPress is running about 27% of the internet right now. And if you've been on the internet any significant amount of time in the last 5 years, you have most likely been on a website that's running WordPress. So I'm going to take a couple minutes to show you some of the larger players that are using it. So it's not just small blogs anymore, and it's not just coffee shop people. So here's Fortune. They publish a magazine, which I'm told is how people used to get news. So if you go on their website, you can type in WP. When this thing loads.
Yeah.
Any of those before?
I can just go to the source.
And it's dead. Okay, that's the drawback of doing live demonstrations. WP login.php. This is actually one of my hobbies now. Go to random websites and see if you can log into the back end.
That's pretty cool.
So if we knew their username or email, you could log in. Let's see. Admin.
You're now on a list somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So thankfully they don't have the default admin as username and password.
We just all got blacklisted.
But I have actually been able to log into people's personal websites by doing that. So it's surprising how many people don't follow best practices when it comes to that. So if you want to have your own WordPress website, the barrier to entry could not be lower. So all you need is a text editor. Notepad++ is my favorite. You need an FTP client, and you need an internet browser. And all of these you can get for free. You're going to need 2 sets of files. You're going to need the WordPress core, which is all the install files, the PHP that runs everything, basically the engine under the hood. And you're going to need a WordPress theme. When you download the WordPress core, it'll come with 3 themes, 2016, 2015, and 2014. If you download it next year, it'll come with 2017, 2016, and 2015. So they usually keep the latest 3 themes on the WordPress core. And you're going to need a couple resources if you want this to be available on the internet for everyone. You need a Linux-based web server. You can use Windows, or you can even use Mac, I believe. But Linux is definitely the way to go. I'm going to state some opinions here. For at least this, you want a MySQL database. And if you want people to be able to reach it, you're going to need to buy a domain name or use a subdomain. So to get the WordPress core, you just go to wordpress.org. And once you're there, you'll find these 2 big blue buttons. Both of them work. I like that one more because it doesn't tell you the version information. It will just tell you whatever download you need. And you'll get a zip file. You have a text editor in case you need to get into code. We're actually not going to be doing any of that today. We're just going to be using plugins and themes. But if you want to do some more advanced editing, you want to change some margins directly, you're going to need a text editor. And of course, your old reliable FTP client. FileZilla is my favorite. You can really use any. And web browsers. If you use these 4, you'll cover about 90% of your user base. If you use just 3 of those, you'll still get 80. But the troublemaker one is this one right here.
Yeah, I don't reckon. What is that? Blue E? I don't.
Yeah.
Leave that apart.
Some people still use that, and those are going to be the 10% of users that give you 90% of your problems. So if you go on the slideshow later when you're at your offices, there's a whole section about how to install WordPress. I'm going to assume that you all can follow instructions and pictures, and it's a very easy process.
Don't assume.
So if you're able to click next and type in a username and a password, you can handle this. So we're going to skip this. Except for one point, which this isn't terribly important yet, but it will be as emojis become more prominent. You're going to want to set the collation to UTF-8 MB4 _ Unicode CI. And that'll save you a lot of headache in the future.
What does that do?
It basically makes it so the text information is stored as 4 bits instead of 3, which gives it a lot more space to work with. And if you've ever been to a website where the quotation marks when someone copy and pastes from Word are ampersand right quotation, ampersand left quotation instead of the quotations themselves, that's because they had a collation that didn't have enough data to store it. So if you give it more data than it needs, it'll save you from all those problems in the future. So we're going to start with the very basics, and I showed you how to do this already. If you have a WordPress website, to log in, all you have to do is go to your base URL and add wp-login.php. So right now I have a virtual machine running, and this is a WordPress website I threw together in about 2 hours. So it's not the best and it's not the fanciest, but it helps get the point across. So we go to the URL bar, we type in wp-login.php. And can any of you guess what the username and password is? Close. It's actually headmaster. But the password is password. So just a little tidbit. Most of the attacks you get on a low priority WordPress website are going to be botnets just sweeping through to see if they can log in with admin and password. And if they can't do that, they're going to stop wasting resources on your website and move on to the next one. So that is it keeps you from being low-hanging fruit, and there's a lot more you can do for security. But if you're going to use admin and password as your username and password, then there's going to be a lot of problems. So this is what the backend looks like. We have a toolbar up here, and we have the dashboard on the left. So the toolbar is cool because it sticks around when you're on the front end. And somehow, even on a virtual machine running on localhost, it finds a way to not work. There it is. So now we're at the front end, and this is what your users will see, except they won't have this toolbar here. And what this toolbar lets you do is when you're at a page, you can directly edit that page. And once you have end users that are providing you content, this is what they'll see. So this looks a lot better on a little wider screen. It gives you a lot more real estate, and it's not as intimidating when you first look at it. But if your users can use email, and if they can use Microsoft Word, then they can do WordPress. All they need to do is put in a subject line, put in their content, and they have a lot of tools to work with. They can format it however they like. They can add pictures directly. So let's say we have this wall of text, and what it really needs is some pictures to spice it up. Let's hit enter a couple times to give it more space, and add media. And here's all the media that we already have preloaded. If they have a picture that, make sure you tell them that they need to have the copyright permission to actually post the picture. But if they have a picture they want to upload, like say this one, which is Abraham Lincoln on a bear. That's my wallpaper. So all we need to do is click upload files, select files, and just browse the picture. So let's see. Here it is. Everyone's favorite president. And once it's uploaded, you just insert the page. And loading times usually aren't this bad. Let's see. Maybe 5 seconds. Yeah, that'll be a lot. So with no knowledge of HTML or CSS or anything, we were able to put Abraham Lincoln riding a bear on our website.
Does the site still remain responsive when you do that?
Yes. So as soon as you click publish, it will automatically upload the pager on. So if you have a lot of complicated caching going on, then it may take a little while to propagate. But if you use just the basic WordPress install, it won't have caching enabled by default, so this will be live essentially. And to go into a little bit more detail, the thing you have to understand about WordPress is that they started as a blogging platform. So everything was built in terms of posts, and pages themselves are actually a subset of posts. So what that means in sort of non-developer jargon is you have posts, which are sticky notes, which are non-temporal. You can put them on, you can take them off. They're what you're going to use a lot of the time. And you have pages which are a lot more structured and a lot more permanent. So to go into detail about each one, your posts are always going to be tied to a timeline. So as your posts are made, the old ones are going to be pushed to the back, so the new ones can take center stage. If you have a project that's ongoing and you want to do periodic updates to let people know how it's going, then posts would be the way to go. Now the thing I tell my users about posts is that while you can edit posts, you want to avoid it wherever possible. So edit them for grammar, edit them for small typos and things like that, but don't edit them if a content changes. If you have new information that overwrites it, just make a new post on top of that. Because the beauty of posts is that people looking back through your archives can see how the project or object being talked about changed as time went on. So each post is going to be its own little time capsule of this is how the situation was at this moment. Pages are the opposite of that. Pages you want to always have current. And if you see a website like a news website that has an About Us page and they have a Contact Us page, those are static informations that aren't going to change. Those are all done using pages. And one of the things you can do with pages that you can't do with posts is that you can nest them hierarchically. So that's how you control the URL settings. So if you want your locations to be under About Us, all you have to do is go in your back end, and you're going to have a pages section. And however you nest them in here is how they're going to be nested in your URL structure. So we have bond proposals, and all of these 4 options are nested under the proposal page. So if we go back to the front end, we look at our menu, here's our proposal options, and here's all the subpages. Let's say we want to see the page for proposal options, here it is. And notice the URL says proposal-options. If we then go to a subpage, say option number 1, all it does is append option 1 to that URL. So out of the box, you're going to get clean URLs, and you're not going to get what a lot of other content management systems do, which is give you an ID, which is a random gibberish combination of letters and numbers. So for your visitors, this is a lot more memorable because they can see I was looking at option 1 in the proposal section. So it's a lot more intuitive for the users to understand. Next, we're going to talk about user roles. And I have a picture of this bouncer here because that's basically what user roles are going to let you do. They're going to let you control what people can get to and what they can do. So there's about 6 roles that are in there by default. You've got admin, you've got editor, author, and contributor. The 2 you're going to use the most are editor and author. There's also super admin and subscriber, which are used in sort of edge cases. Super admin is for when you have a multi-site install, and they are the admin that can control everything in all websites. And you have subscribers, which are when you want people to be able to make a user account in order to submit comments, but you don't want them to be able to reach your backend at all. So if you have anyone in your organization that has the ability to speak to the public but you wish they would think about their words before putting them out there, then you want to put them in the contributor role. This will let them make posts and pages, but it'll make it so that in order for those pages to be posted to the internet, they need an editor to approve their post. If you have someone who's a bit more responsible, you give them the author permission role, and that will let them do the same thing as a contributor, but they have the ability to post things when they feel that they are ready to post. And again, we talked about this during the contributor. An editor has all the same abilities as an author, but they can publish and unpublish other people's posts. Then admin, you're only going to want to use for administrative tasks, so back-end stuff. As a general rule, never do a post as an admin, because that'll reveal who your admin user is to web scrapers. So if I write a bot to attack your website, I'm going to check all your users who have done posts, and then I'm going to use those as usernames and then spam password attempts. And if you want to make your own roles, WordPress allows you to do that, and the information to do that will be at that URL. Menus are another really user-friendly feature. So these up here are all menus. And to edit them, all we have to do is go to the dashboard, go to Appearance, then Menus, so it's a little hidden. And here's your menu interface. If you want to rearrange any pages, you can change them. These don't have to follow the structure of the website at all. So you can put them in arbitrary places, drag and drop them wherever you want. Let's say we want option 2 to be nested under frequently asked questions instead of where it used to be. We just drag it there and save the menu. And this will, as soon as you click save, it'll automatically propagate to your live website. So now option 2 is nested under FAQs instead of proposal options. But if we go to option 2, it still has the same URL as before. So if you have anyone who bookmarked this page and you move it around in your menu, it's not going to affect their bookmarks. It'll still reach that permanent link up there. The media library is one of WordPress's best features. It's, I think, what it separates it from a lot of other content management systems. like I showed you before, it's very easy to use. And all you have to do is upload a file and browse to it on your folder on your local machine and upload it, and it'll automatically be usable in any of your posts. So let's look at the media library. And as your users upload files, they'll be automatically added here. What this gives you is an overview of the files they've done. You can do PDFs, you can do images, you can do videos, and you can do audio. So if it's in the media library, WordPress core knows how to handle making it available. So if you upload an MP3, it'll give the end user a MP3 player on your website. So the one thing you can't upload to the media library are executables. So you can't do EXEs and you can't do APKs. And by default, you can't do zip files. And these are all for security reasons. But you can actually change those settings if you want your users to be able to upload zip files. So if you're looking at this later, here's a checklist I usually go through when I'm installing a website. This has a lot of common settings you can change, but we're going to skip over that for time purposes. And here's the really interesting part a lot of people love about WordPress. It separates the back end from the front end. So all your pages and your posts are separate from what they look like. And what they look like is handled entirely within the content type of themes. So right now we're using this theme. We can, with just one click, switch to a completely different theme, and this will reskin our entire website. So now when we're back, it's all very blue. So the thing about themes is that they're not perfect. We're still working on the technology. As you can see, a theme is built with a certain dimension in mind. So if you have very nested menus, you'll get issues like this. These are fixable, but you'll need someone with knowledge of PHP and CSS in order to do those fixes. But as you can see, it took all of 30 seconds to change a theme, and we're about 90% there. We need to change the menus, and we need to resize this. But it gives you the benefit of having mobile features already from the get-go. So if any of you have older websites that aren't mobile enabled, then using a WordPress theme with dynamic sizing will help with that. There's a couple places you can get themes. You can get them directly from WordPress. So there's this thing called the WordPress repository. And different theme developers can submit their themes to be held there. And all themes that are uploaded here have to be open source. There's a little bit of a caveat to it though. You can release an open source version of a premium product. So usually that'll be a demo type version with very limited functionality. And the other place you can get them is a premium themes website. The biggest marketplace for premium themes is ThemeForest. They usually cost between $50 and $100, but they can vary dramatically in code quality. So you get what you pay for. It's $50 to $100, so expect about $50 to $100 worth of theme. So to get a lot of things working, you'll have to dig into the code yourself and add more templates to do all of your custom functionality. But it'll get you a good solid starting point. And when you're looking at themes, keep in mind that anyone can upload a theme to this marketplace and try to sell it. But they do have a little bit of internal controls. You can see the developer's reputation. It'll give them different amounts of badges and different sales amounts. You can see their ratings. So use the same criteria you would on eBay. If they look shady, don't buy it. If they look like a reliable developer, then you can be a little bit more comfortable with buying something from them. Plugins let you do basically anything. WordPress is a lot like iOS right now in that there's 46,000 apps in the repository. So if it's a problem you've thought of, it's probably a problem a developer has also encountered and has built an app for it. But again, anyone can upload an app to a repository, so there's going to be a huge swath of quality there. So right now we're going to go over some of my favorite plugins that add a lot of functionality to WordPress that you can use just a graphic user interface and not have to know any code. So my personal favorite is the events calendar. What it lets you do is create an events page and automatically populate it with a calendar. So this, from the front end, would just ask you a few questions about your event, and it'll generate this calendar where it'll automatically post your events. Now right now this is empty because all of the events I had on this were all for February. But when you're in each individual event, it creates a page for it with a permanent URL. It has the event time, the date, you can put venue information. And people can export this to their Google Calendar or their iCalendar. And this is something that your end users can very easily handle themselves. So they have the same user interface as posts, except with a lot more extra information. So they put in the time and date, they put in the location. All they have to do is type it in and it'll automatically generate your Google Maps for you. And they can put in as much information as they want. They can put in a contact information phone, they can put in a website, they can put in organizational information. And if the event has a cost associated with it, you can add that here and it'll automatically add it to your page. So that's the events calendar. Another good one is Ninja Forms, and what this one lets you do is create interactive user forms on the website that people can submit to. So again, this is another one meant for non-coders. If you have someone who can do PHP in-house, then the more secure way of doing this would be to have them draw up a form with proper validation in between. But Ninja Forms has decent security. So you're not going to run into all the basic code injection attacks. So if someone types in PHP draw tables into your form, you're not going to automatically lose your whole database. And it's very easy to work with. So we're going to make a new form. And we have all these fields on the right. It's blurry on the slideshow, but this one here is a date field. That'll automatically give people a click calendar to select their dates. We can put in a paragraph box where they can type in a paragraph of text. And let's say we also want their phone number. So we want those three things. We click done and publish. It'll prompt you for a title for the form. So we're going to call this test form 1 and publish it. And we can preview it directly. So October 12th, and phone number. And just like that, you can have a form on your website that will submit to any email you assign to it. So if we see here, this sent that form to webmaster@toknc.com. And if you put in your email address, it'll send it to you. You can route different forms to different people. So if you have something like a traffic report form, you can have that routed to your traffic officers. If you have an appointment form, you can route it to the necessary offices.
Does they use like PHP mail function, or do you have to have some kind of mail server like Tomcat of your own?
It uses PHP mail. So however your web server is handling that, it'll piggyback off of that. This is probably my favorite plugin on the whole repository. It's called Shortcode's Ultimate, and the way I like to think of this is as Batman's utility belt. It gives your end users a lot of extra functionality for neat stuff they can do without having to call you and ask, hey, how do I do an HTML table? So I'm actually going to go ahead and change the theme to something a little bit more legible. Because I'm noticing the projector's a little bit blurry. So here's a page that holds all the samples of different shortcodes you can do. Some of the more interesting ones are here, like Google Doc Embed. So if you have a PDF form and you want people to be able to view it directly without downloading it, you can embed it as a Google document. And all this does is do an iframe, which will render your PDF directly in the browser. So here's what it looks like in the back end, and let's get rid of that, and let's do it from scratch. So what you would do after installing that plugin is it gives you this menu called Insert Shortcode, and here's a lot of neat different tools you can use, but the one we're going to do right now is Documents. And then it's just all about filling in the blanks. So you put in the URL for your PDF. You put in the width and height you want it to default to. You can set it to whether or not you want to stick to those heights or responsibly resize to the user window. And you can even give it extra CSS classes. So fill them in and click, and it'll automatically generate your code for you. So this is something someone with no experience of HTML or CSS or anything can easily do. And there's a lot of cool stuff in that utility belt. There's accordions. There's photo galleries. There's Google Maps. Lots of different tools that you might use once or twice, but it saves you from having to spend the time to write basically your own layout for these. This one you're only going to use if you have separate development and production environments. This is my favorite tool for migrating databases. What this does is it zips up all of your different WordPress tables and charts and all that. And it'll handle URL replacement. So right now we're on localhost. Let's say we want to go to posting it online. All we would do is replace the old URL with the new one and change the server path. So that'll be the root folder of your server where it's holding all the HTML and PHP files. Now this one's neat if you want search engine optimization. So what that does is it lets you have description fields for all of your pages. This is a lot more for marketing. It's basically the new buzzword in internet marketing, search engine optimization. And if you follow all of the best practices which the plugin describes for you, then you're more likely to get better web results. So let's take a moment to talk about security. You're only going to be as secure as the weakest link in your chain. So while we were looking at themes and plugins and all the fun stuff they let you do and all the time they save you, each of those comes with a code base that you're not directly in control of. Each of those introduces another element where human error can play a part. So when you're adding plugins, realize that each one could be adding new vulnerabilities. So this is a reminder to not be the low-hanging fruit. WordPress websites are going to be a low priority target for most people. Most attacks you encounter are going to be automated in nature, so they're not going to take the time to search for extended vulnerabilities unless you have data that is very valuable. And one of the ways you can counteract that is to stay on top of your updates. So many of the exploits that are used in the wild are exploits that have been patched. And if the people who were in charge of those websites had upgraded their plugins and their themes and kept those up to date, they wouldn't have been infected. And this is my personal favorite. Make sure to change the admin account settings. Don't keep it admin and password, because then random people who have been to one seminar of WordPress will know to log into your website. And never post as the admin account, because that'll reveal on the front end who your admin is. And last of all, use secure passwords. If you want to get more technical, you can disable logging in from everywhere except your IP. This is what we use at Kernersville. Our users can only log in if they're logging in from Town Hall. So if you have a botnet that is chasing you, then as long as they're from an external IP, it won't even let them log in. And WordFence is a plugin that I don't have time to go over right now, because it only works on Linux, and right now this is running on a Windows virtual machine. But it gives you a lot more security features.
WordFence runs on Windows.
It does?
I have it on iOS right now, I use it on all my sites.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I tried
my
using
buddy
it on
here was
Windows
saying
and it
you could actually run WordPress now on IIS.
No, WordFence. So this is a plugin on top of WordPress. And what this lets you do is it gives you more granularity of your security controls, which is good to look into if security is a priority for you. So are there any questions? Anyone?
Matias, show us a couple of live sites that you worked on there.
Okay.
Kernersville Park and Recreation.
So this is our Parks and Recreation website. And after we put this up, this is entirely managed by them. They give me a call occasionally, once or twice a month, to check in on whether or not they're doing something correctly. But once you have this set up and you give them all the tools to work with, your users can handle putting their own content up.
I do have a question.
Yes?
When you first install WordPress, does it still make it like posts at first, and you have to disable the posts and set it up to add pages, or is it more oriented towards pages, and then if you want to add posts as secondary pages?
So about 2 or 3 years ago, when they were first doing the split between being only posts and allowing pages as a subset of posts which have permanent locations, that was the case. But now they're two completely separate post types. So when you do your pages, you can assign them permanent URLs, and your posts don't overlap that. So if you have a query in your template that is querying only posts, you're only going to get those posts.
So if I install WordPress today, the first thing I would see is like a web page, not like a blog.
You're going to see a blog.
And you have to do something to change it, to remove the blog part.
Yes. And here's what you would change. So this is what it goes to by default,
Okay.
your list of posts. And you can change it to a static page.
And then when you add other pages, okay.
And you can select what you want your front page to be. And once you do that, you need to move where your blog posts are hosted. So you'll need to do a page for your blog role, which in this case is the news page.
You have to do that part? So put a place for, what if you're not going to use posts?
If you're not going to use them, you don't have to.
Okay.
They just won't be revealed on the front end. And if you look at the slideshow later on, here's some extra resources on installation. question actually was answered in the very long slideshow. So I tried to make this slideshow as a resource of a basic overview of what you need to do when you're setting a website. And the link structure is where you would look at those settings. Any other questions?
So I'll just ask the group, do you guys have special projects that you've done under WordPress? Do you do your main website under this? Do you break out your departments? How do you handle other people in your department as contributors, or your organization as contributors? How do you handle that? Anybody got any special projects that they're working on using WordPress?
I do. I got about a dozen sites all on WordPress. We've redone the whole city, and I've got a couple PHP applications that use the WordPress framework to handle the authentication, and then through a session variable, I pass it over to another, and it's just pure PHP, so I can do all sorts of cool stuff outside of WordPress, and still have WordPress handle all the authentication, which works out really handy because it goes against our Active Directory, so makes logging really easy.
That was gonna be my question I wanted to ask, and you just hit it on the head. It goes against Active Directory. I was looking at possibly implementing like an intranet site.
We do the exact same thing.
And I see, there's a couple of intranet plugins on the Codex page there.
If you can do, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, so it will authenticate.
There's a plugin, it's called AD integration or something like that. There's like 2 popular plugins out there. One I couldn't get to work. The one that I found I got works great, and you can control, it's by groups, so you can have a hierarchy in groups. So it'll hit this group first if it's not, so I can, through Active Directory, put them in an admin group, an author group, a contributor group. And then what I did is I just made those pages, I just made a new template and added one PHP line at the top that says, if logged in with this role. And then I wrap my template in that, and then you just choose that as a template throughout your site. And so, this is an intranet template, we gotta check for a role. You can't get in, you can't get in. So it was really 2 lines of code and then the plugin. It takes a little bit to set it up, but
That's applicable to all your intranet?
intranet, that's correct. Yep, and so I just go to WordPress page, new page, I hit intranet template, which goes a separate template that has the if logged in call.
So actually I can show you guys what he's talking about, of where you would do that edit. So, content, themes, and this is, you did that within your theme?
Yeah, I made a copy of page.php and called it intranet page.php and added 1 line at the top.
So this is where your text editor comes into play. So you would add that roughly.
You have to add the first line, don't you?
I mean, if you want, you can have it so the header shows up so they can see, but then not the content, so you can wrap it around your content, and that way they'll see your whole site, your header, that way they can go back somewhere if they want, to another page on the site, and if they accidentally got there, and then, hey, I'm logging to see this, or you can do it the very first line, and it'll just, nothing will be a blank page. Well, the way I do it, it kicks them to the login page. So if they get to that page, it just redirects to the login page, so they don't see anything, they just, login page, okay. And I customize the login page with our logo and our stuff, so they log right in, and then I had to kick to the home of the intranet page.
Okay.
So it makes it seamless for the employee.
You can like start session, $, with the session, equals this variable there, like authentication.
Oh, that was a different example I was giving earlier, but yeah, so I will, that was a different one, I can talk about that, but yeah, so it's just a login redirect function that WordPress has built in. So you say, go ahead and log in, and then redirect to internet homepage.
That's a little checkbox there, yeah. The redirect, when you build your page, isn't there like a little
I don't
radio
know.
box you click that says you can do this or this?
I don't know. I mean, I did it in PHP, so I'm not, I don't know.
Does anybody have an externally facing site they want to pop up here and show us? Give us an example. Where are you from, by the way?
Goldsboro. You know Goldsboro, NC.gov. This is all WordPress, and this first, the home page is almost completely custom. Zoom out one, you're zoomed in, it's hitting the mobile version. There you go. But everything on that front page is all custom. Mouse over the little circles. Sort of a fun little feature.
Yeah, that's cool.
Do you have multiple contributors? from
I
different
do,
parties?
and that's the tough part. So I was able to train a couple people in this office, and they got it. Tried to train a couple people. No, that one's not done. So police, fire, almost all of the top are done, but there's two that I haven't converted yet. Now go to the DGC is one of the newest cool ones. So I have a couple departments where I struggled. I taught them and they can't do it. Taught them they can't do it. So on our intranet that I built in, I put in a bunch of help videos, but it's tough to get people to go. And the menus on this one
Do you use a multi-site
I
install
don't.
these, or?
no, every one of them are separate installs.
That's what I was gonna ask him, because that's something that I've never been able to figure out how to do. I've done it the way you've done it, have to have separate WordPress sites, separate domain for each one.
I mean, I've heard.
Multi-site's still a little iffy, because from a plugin development point of view, your environment's going to be a little different. So all plugin developers are going to target that single user base. So if you go for multi-site, you can't use as many plugins off the repository. But other than that, it's exceptionally stable now.
I would say one caveat for the multi-site, I just found out that like in the database, there's 36 tables for one site, there's 36 tables for the other site.
Yeah.
So,
Just hit the KPD site and look at the documents repository. It's just a concept that we had, our police officers have this concept of having a document library that they wanted to present to their citizens. So we tried to come up with a decent way to present whatever crime prevention document, report document, et cetera. So this is our current PD site, and so we came up with this sort of document repository site for them. So citizens can come here if they're looking for specific information, and we can add and take away as needed. But this was one we presented those sites for, those documents for.
And this is actually a custom plugin that lets them create these documents directly on the website. So what they used to do is make PDF brochure versions of everything, which they still do for print versions. But if they want to quickly add publication, they can add it directly as a publication post type.
So you can still download the PDF from here, but there's just a different way we can present those.
can you change your style sheet without changing your name? Like add something here, add your own CSS, like a plugin or something, where you can change how the text is presented, like bring to a Google form or something.
The way it's set up is, do you know about child themes? So when WordPress has a theme, you can create a theme that is a subset of that, so you'll inherit all the classes from it, and you can overwrite any classes that you want.
You just redeclare the theme.
Yeah, if you redeclare it, then it'll overwrite. And that's actually, I think, only 2 versions old, so it's a relatively new feature. And if you want to see some of the forms out in the wild, here's our traffic incident form. Looks like there's a problem there. So this is where people can report traffic incidents and submit it directly to the officers in charge of their district.
one question about this image here. What do you have to do, say, so what size do you upload an image for a store? Do you have to like take it like JPEG 93 or do anything to it, or you just upload it usually, it just seems to scale and load?
This is actually a very large image. What I usually do is make it twice as big as it needs to be for Retina devices. But once you do that, you have the advantage of being able to take the JPEG compression very high, because when it sizes it down, the JPEG compression won't be visible to the end user. So you can actually get away with smaller file sizes. But because of the interpolation the browser does for displaying the images itself, it looks a bit clearer.
What compression would you use, like an image like this size? Like usually JPEG 93 is, if you're gonna use an image that was actually that size instead of twice.
It would depend on the image. A lot of these were already compressed JPEGs when we started with them, so I tried not to take it down too far. But I really just eyeball it, depending on what file size I want and what I think looks bad compression-wise.
What would you try to stay below the file size for WordPress?
For WordPress, I try to stay below
Yeah.
800 kilobytes for a large image. But by default, your documents library will only let you upload up to 2 megabyte files, which you can change with the setting. Is it 8 now? Yeah, you can change it.
You can override in your config file.
Yeah,
to
you would
whatever
change
want.
that in php.ini. But if you do it from WordPress, it won't let you raise it higher than your PHP settings will allow it to upload.
I'm gonna change it to PHP.
Yep. Yeah.
For WordPress or like that Apache PHP?
The Apache PHP. So here's where you change it.
Now, for those who didn't know, I mean, I'm pretty sure you maybe heard, you got I7, as you can port a WordPress right into your Windows environment. And you won't have to use a third party tool like that, as we'll talk about. You can use IS and still continue to go.
Yeah, that's one of the benefits of it being an open source project.
Right.
It's not tied to any platform.
Right.
So if people want it to work for them, they can modify it and release it for other people.
Well, thank you everybody for coming. Enjoy the rest of the conference. If y'all indulge me for about 3 seconds, I'll recognize my rest of my staff. My whole staff is here. Adam Hutchins is my systems administrator. Daniel Brooks back there, PC technician back there.